Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a pretty short video because I'm going to show you how to upcycle your furniture. Just like my last DIY, it doesn't take that much skill, but it may take a little bit of time depending on what you're trying to upcycle. When I moved into this apartment, I knew I wanted a table for this little area over here because I wanted some sort of dining room table. We don't ever really use it to sit down and eat, but it does come in handy when friends are over and we need extra seating. I was super lucky to find this small table in my mom's basement. We've actually had this table for a really long time. I'm pretty sure I remember doing my elementary school homework on this table. There were a couple things that I immediately knew I wanted to fix with this table. Number one, the table was super scratched. Number two, the tabletop was actually like a yellow-orange and that was not the vibe. And number three, the bottom section of this table was this really unpleasant green color and it was fading in different spots. There were weird dirt marks everywhere. It was just old. So it just needed to be completely changed. I think that the steps that I took to upcycle my table are steps that you guys can take yourself. I broke it down into 5 easy steps. Number one, separate out the pieces that you're going to do different things to. For me, I took the tabletop off of the base of the table because I knew I was going to sand and stain the tabletop and I was just going to spray paint the bottom base. My tabletop was only attached to the base by a couple screws and you'll see that here. It was pretty easy to take off. Don't forget to keep your screws in a bag and label everything because the last thing you want is to lose a screw. So step number 2 is to start your sanding and staining of all the wood elements of your upcycle. What you want to make sure to do during this entire process is to make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area. When you're sanding and spray painting, make sure you wear a mask and goggles just to protect your face and lungs. Don't want any of that stuff to get into your lungs. That would be real bad. The treatments that you do to wood typically take the longest amount of time, so I say that you tackle that first. Because my tabletop was so scratched, I did have to take the longest amount of time to sand that down. I'm not going to do a video on how to sand and stain wood today, but leave a comment below. I'll probably make a video on that in the future. I ended up using 3 different grits of sandpaper, and it definitely took me a couple hours to wear away at the varnish and the finish and take away some of those scratches. After sanding, I just used a Varathane gel wood stain, and I did about 2 to 3 coats on the tabletop. Between every coat of stain, I let it dry for about 2 hours, and then at the very end, I used a polyurethane spray to protect the entire surface. In between all of those coats of stain and polyurethane drying, I also started working on the base. So step number 3 is to work on the pieces of furniture that you just need to paint. Again, I used my trusty Rust-Oleum spray paint, this time in a semi-gloss finish. The can of spray paint itself actually has a lot of great instructions, but the gist of it is to make sure to shake the can before you use it and just to spray in fluid, even motions. This will prevent the paint from piling up in one spot and potentially dripping. I did about 2 to 3 coats of the spray paint on the base of my table. I also found it useful to use a little buffing block to buff out all of the areas in which the paint pooled up or there's a lot of scratches. By buffing and sanding in between each coat of spray paint, you're just ensuring that your base looks really nice and smooth by the time you're done. Step 4 is just to reassemble your items. Obviously, your reassembly might be a little bit more complicated depending on the furniture piece you're upcycling. I put the tabletop back on the base and I made sure to screw all of those screws in nice and tight. And the 5th and final step is to take a look at your overall upcycle to see if there's any small finishing touches you need to make. For me, it was just adding a couple extra touches of spray paint to the base to make sure everything looked nice and even. And that's it. You have a beautiful piece of furniture that looks brand new, but is just recycled, or as we DIYers call it, upcycled. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something useful from this. If you have any other questions about how to upcycle your furniture, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help. Don't forget to like and comment about what you want to see next, and subscribe for more DIY content. I'll see you guys next time.